Hello. What a week it has been. What a week it has been in terms of what is going on in Warren County. So I figured what I would do today is give a very quick recap of everything. I went on a little rant on Blue Sky last night. So this is just what the main points that came to my mind were. So, multi-year struggle. Spring of 2023, this beer babysitting books thing came out. Lots of requests for reconsideration were submitted to Samuel's Public Library. Most of them included LGBTQ plus characters or authors. Most of the people that submitted requests didn't read the entire book. The county then withheld the funding from Samuel's Public Library until they were satisfied that Samuel's had handled these forms appropriately. Samuel's did make some changes. They made new library cards. They even made a new section. So in October of 2023, they did come to a new agreement, a new MOA, and the Board of Supervisors and Samuel's signed the new library funding agreement that was set to renew automatically every year at the end of the fiscal year. Then in November, local elections came and went. There were some last-minute write-in people trying to oppose the one person running for one of the supervisor districts. Unfortunately, they did not win. They got a lot of votes. Like this, it made a dent, but by the time these campaigns got off the ground, it was just too late. People see the R next to the guy's name, and they're just gonna. If you didn't know who the write-in candidate was, you're not gonna vote for the write-in candidate, unfortunately. So that's why there's a pack now. But this guy named Rich Jameson was elected to the Board of Supervisors. He decided to reopen the library issue. And yes, his wife and his family submitted book removal forms. So he decided to reopen this issue, decided to look into all the funding and see if it could be more efficient or if we're wasting money. Mind you, Samuel's won Library of the Year in Virginia in 2024. So he makes this whole report comparing Samuel's to other nearby library systems and saying, oh, it costs too much. And just going off, and he recommended for a creation of this Warren County Library Board to oversee the financials and taxpayer funding given to Samuel's. So, on December 10th of 2024, it has now been a full year and some change since this library funding agreement has been signed. So, December 10th, 2024, there was a public hearing on the creation of this Warren County Library Board. Over 110 people came out to vote, or to urge the supervisors to vote no, or to table the vote, and about 20-ish told them to vote yes. After the public hearing, the supervisors then all got to make their own little points, and in a vote that was 4-1, the creation of a Warren County Library Board was passed, even though in a 5+ hour hearing and 110 plus people speaking out against it, the supervisors did what they were going to do and voted 4-1 to create this board. So this brings us back, not yet, in January. Then the board was created, members were appointed by the Board of Supervisors. And I've mentioned Eric Belk before. He's the chair of this new board. Also himself submitted book removal requests. You can find that in an earlier video of mine. And they've had, a handful of meetings. I think they've had maybe 4 or 5 meetings since its creation. And last week at the meeting they had, they made a slew of recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. They passed a bunch of motions and made recommendations. One of which is to recommend that the Board of Supervisors not renew the library funding agreement with Samuels Public Library for fiscal year 2026, which would start on July 1. This happened the day after Samuels Public Library submitted their budget proposal to the Board of Supervisors. And that brings us to this week, where on Tuesday, we're in March 4th, on the agenda at the Warren County Board of Supervisors meeting at 7 p.m., there is an agenda item, and I'm going to put it here, but I'll read it to you. The explanation and summary, and the subject is library funding agreement. The Warren County Library Board, has recommended that the Board of Supervisors exercise its right to non-renew the October 3rd, 2023 library funding agreement, the agreement, between Warren County and Samuels Library Incorporated, Samuels. The agreement automatically renews from year to year. In order to enable the Library Board to determine how best to provide library services, either through a new vendor or Samuels under a new agreement, the agreement will not be renewed in order to prevent the upcoming automatic renewal of the agreement. This action does not prevent Samuels from continuing to provide library services to Warren County citizens. Cost and financing. Possible cost savings under a new contract to provided library services. Possible. They don't even know. Proposed or suggested motion. I move that the library funding agreement not be renewed and that notice of non-renewal be provided to Samuels Library Incorporated, or I move that the board take no action with respect to the library funding agreement. So that's what's happening on Tuesday. I, at this point, don't even know what to say other than if you are in the area and can come out to the Board of Supervisors meeting, please do, at least to give a show of support to Samuels. I am hopefully going to get out there by about 6:15. The way they do public comment now at the Board of Supervisors meeting, from what I understand, is it used to be a 60-minute public comment period kind of before the meeting they got into like the agenda items. Now they do 30 minutes of it in the beginning on things that are on the agenda. And then they stop. And then they do the agenda. And then they have another 30 minutes for things that aren't on the agenda. So it's not very conducive to public input, honestly. And while all this is going on, there's been a lot of other things happening on Facebook. Eric Belk has been calling people weak sauce on Facebook for a couple days. It's kind of fun to watch. The Warren County Library Board created a Facebook page, so you can go check that out if you want to. I wouldn't. Or maybe you could. I don't know. But yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. And based on what I know about how things have gone down, I think they are going to do the first proposed motion, unfortunately, which at that point can only be fought by getting new people on the Board of Supervisors. And that's what the Save Samuels Library PAC is going to fight for. This all came about because of a small group of people got heavily involved in request for reconsideration campaign and heavily involved in the local government because they didn't like the fact that there were books with LGBTQ plus people in the library available to youth, even though they were age appropriate, because they view gay people, they then equated them to pornography. There was a time back last summer of 2023 that it started as the LGBTQ agenda, and then at meetings they started talking about pornography in the library. Those two are not the same thing. There is no pornography in the library. So it comes back to the books, and it comes back to the queer community. And whatever new library service, if this were to go through, that they choose, we don't know what their collection is going to look like. We don't know if there are going to be diverse books on the shelf, because I think I've said this in a previous video, in a FOIA document about the creation of this library board, they don't have to adhere to any freedom to read statement or Library Bill of Rights, or really anything that says they need to have diverse books on the shelf beyond what is constitutionally warranted. So I don't really know where I'm going with this video at this point. If you would have told me in October of 2023 that this is where we'd be, I don't know if I would have believed you, because at that point in time, everything was working out. And then it all came crashing down again. So, my plea to you is, if you are in the area, show up on Tuesday. If you are nowhere near where this is happening, check to see what's happening in your local area. A lot of people think this will never happen here. You can't think that. You can't. Even if you think it'll never happen, go ahead and send an email to your board and back that up and say, I love our library. I hope you keep funding it. Do it proactively, because you don't want to be where this is now.